You might think America's landscapes are familiar. Mountains, rivers, deserts, and coastlines we've all seen on maps, but that assumption couldn't be further from the truth. Scattered across this country are places so unusual, they rewrite what we think geography can be. From landscapes that seem born from another planet, to towns with stories too bizarre to ignore. These are not your typical destinations, so join us as we explore the strangest places in America you won't believe exist. Imagine you're wandering in southern Utah, expecting the classic canyons carved by rivers from 1,000 postcards. But Bryce Canyon National Park stuns you with something entirely different. Natural amphitheaters bursting with vibrant red, orange, and white columns called hoodoos. These hoodoos, some reaching up to 60 meters tall, aren't just eye candy. They're geological marvels shaped by freeze-thaw cycles and headward erosion. Unlike classic canyons carved by a single river, Bryce's amphitheaters grew by headward erosion nibbling into the Paunsaugunt Plateau, spalling off fins that weathered into hoodoos. So the park's star feature isn't a canyon at all, it's a plateau, unraveling. The park sits perched between 2,400 and 2,700 meters above sea level, making the air crisp and the views breathtaking, especially at Rainbow Point, the highest rim, which delivers vistas of endless plateaus and distant cliffs. But the real magic happens at Bryce Amphitheater, stretching 19 kilometers long, 5 kilometers wide, and plunging 240 meters deep. These formations, painted with minerals, glow especially vivid at sunrise and sunset. It's no wonder Bryce has the largest hoodoo collection in the world. Other parks have similar structures, but nowhere are they so densely packed and surreal as here. Travelers from around the globe come to glimpse at the surreal amphitheaters, yet many leave still puzzled by their true origins. If Bryce Canyon challenges your definition of canyon, Crater Lake in southern Oregon will flip your notions of what a lake can be. Nestled atop a collapsed volcano left by Mount Mazama's explosive eruption about 7,700 years ago, Crater Lake reigns as the deepest lake in the United States, plunging a staggering 594 meters below the surface. That's nearly 4 times taller than the Statue of Liberty. It is so profoundly blue, and on clear days, visibility can exceed 30 meters straight down into its intensely pristine waters. What's truly wild is how the lake sustains itself. With no inlets or outlets, Crater Lake is topped up by snow and rain and loses water to evaporation and seepage. The result is a remarkably clear, self-contained system whose water turns over roughly every 150 to 200 years. Floating on its surface, you might spot the Old Man of the Lake, a log that has been bobbing vertically in the icy blue since at least the late 1800s, taking decades to decay due to the low temperatures. Surrounded by sheer cliffs and forests, Crater Lake is almost otherworldly. A giant cauldron of blue cradled high in the Cascade Range and far from any bustling city. One of its most iconic features is Wizard Island, a cinder cone rising 233 meters above the lake's surface, hinting at the region's volcanic heritage. Standing on the rim, the silence is so profound you can almost hear the stories the water could tell. But if you think a self-contained lake atop a volcano is the strangest thing America has up its sleeve, wait till you witness lights in a Texas desert that no science can fully explain. Travel deep into West Texas, far from the city lights, and you'll encounter a phenomenon that's baffled residents and scientists alike for over a century: the Marfa lights. Just outside the tiny town of Marfa, unexplained orbs glow and dart across the desert horizon, changing color and intensity, splitting and merging in ways cameras still struggle to capture. These mysterious ghost lights hover above the Chihuahuan Desert, especially visible at a shoulder along Highway 90, and have inspired wild theories since their first sighting in 1883. Some locals swear the lights are spirits, while others suggest stranger causes, from energy trapped in mineral-rich ground to other unexplained forces. The area's unique geography lends itself to peculiar atmospheric conditions, hot desert air clashing with cool ground, refracting light in unpredictable ways. Controlled observations show many modern sightings line up with distant car headlights and atmospheric refraction. Yet reports from the 1880s, pre-automobile, and the odd hovering movements keep the mystery alive. Even the best scientific models leave gaps, especially when witnesses describe phenomena moving in patterns no vehicle could mimic, floating above the scrub bush and below distant mesas. Tourists from around the world flock to the Marfa Lights viewing center, hopeful for a glimpse of the unpredictable show. The experience is equal parts bizarre and exhilarating. The vast empty expanse amplifies the mystery, and as the darkness falls, suspense hangs heavy in the air. Local stories reference Native American campfires, foxfire, or even supernatural forces, but still, Every new visitor leaves with more questions than answers. If the desert can spark such curious phenomena, what happens when vast salt flats, bizarrely low elevations, and moon-like landscapes redefine your sense of scale? Our journey now lands in California's Death Valley, home to Badwater Basin, a place so extreme it warps the very notion of ground level. Here, you'll stand at the lowest point in North America, marked at 86 meters below sea level. At first glance, Badwater resembles some alien tundra, sprawling with billions of glistening salt crystals left behind by ancient lakes that vanished centuries ago. The salt flats stretch out in polygonal patterns that look straight out of a sci-fi film, framed by the jagged black mountains looming on the horizon. Walking across Badwater Basin, the ground crunches underfoot, and the visual effect is mind-bending. The desert sun bakes the landscape in white, punctuated only by distant peaks. Despite sitting so low, you're just 137 kilometers from Mount Whitney, the highest spot in the contiguous United States, soaring 4,421 meters above sea level. These two extremes, highest and lowest points, exist within the same state, a coincidence almost unheard of geographically. Death Valley also holds Earth's hottest reliably recorded air temperature, 56.7 degrees Celsius, at Furnace Creek in 1913. Its unique geography amplifies both highs and lows. The basin's landscape is so hostile that life must adapt in incredible ways, with salt-tolerant plants and animals eking out a living where most would perish. When rain rarely falls, the salt flats transform, reflecting the sun in hypnotic patterns and creating fleeting, shallow lakes that disappear almost as quickly as they arrive. But as day turns to night, the silence is profound, and before too long, you're left contemplating what other unusual boundaries nature can push. Let's head to the southeastern United States, where geography performs its own kind of magic trick. The Florida Keys, a string of coral islands stretching nearly 180 kilometers off the state's southern tip, form an arc so fantastical, it looks handcrafted for adventure. The archipelago reaches the southernmost tip of the US at Key West, surrounded by turquoise shallows and crowned with powdery white sand. While Florida's mainland coasts have some of America's longest, widest beaches, the Keys are a different world. Low coral islands stitched together by the overseas highway, edged with mangroves and seagrass shallows. The underwater geography is the headliner. The Keys front the only living coral barrier reef in the continental US, protected by the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. Above the water, the overseas highway leaps 182 kilometers across 42 bridges, including the 7-mile bridge, tying the islands into a single ribbon of road. The region's climate, shaped by the Gulf Stream and Atlantic currents, molds both the islands and their ecological diversity. Inland, the islands are flat, with tropical hardwood hammocks, mangroves, and scrub adapted to salt and storm. Offshore, the coral islands stand as nature's last stronghold against rising seas. The length and breadth of the beaches, maintained by the geological interplay of currents and reefs, make Florida's coast not only long, but endlessly varied, drastically different from the stony Atlantic shore further north. Standing at land's edge, watching the horizon blur away, you might feel as if you've reached the end of the map itself. But while the Keys stretch outward like nature's grand illusion, there's a place on the opposite side of the country where the trick isn't the sea or the sky. It's the very pull of gravity itself. The mystery spot outside Santa Cruz is a small patch of forest where gravity seems to behave like a trick. Discovered by surveyors around 1939 and open to the public about 1940, the effect is a classic tilt house illusion. The 20 degrees lean and skewed visual cues make balls seem to roll uphill, and people appear to change height, a trick of perception, not gravity. The site became a classic gravity house, a showpiece of optical illusion turned into a tourist stop, and researchers studied the perception effects there decades ago. Guides still stage demonstrations that make you question your balance and your eyes, and the place keeps its charm because the tricks are done against a backdrop of redwoods and old-time roadside fun. It's small, it's odd, and it plays straight into the human love for being fooled, and the science only makes it more interesting. Finally, Centralia, Pennsylvania, a near-empty borough with an underground fire that has been burning since at least the 27th of May 1962. The blaze started in an old landfill that connected with coal seams and then spread into abandoned mine workings. Engineers warned the town and many residents accepted buyouts, but a handful stayed and the town emptied. The fire has burned in seams at depths of up to about 91 meters and was once estimated to potentially affect up to about 3,700 acres if it fully spread. Parts of the area have smoke and steam that can bubble up through road fissures. Centralia's streets and the former graffiti highway drew sightseers for years, but the highway was closed and buried in 2020. Most of the area is unsafe/closed due to subsidence and toxic gases. Only a handful of residents remain. The zip code was discontinued in 2002, and most properties were eminent domained over time. And that's just a glimpse of some of the strangest, most fascinating places scattered across the United States. But America is full of hidden oddities waiting to be uncovered. What's the weirdest or most unbelievable spot you've ever come across in the US? Drop them in the comments. I'd love to see what makes it into your list. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.